And the next word.
Umeingia kwa hiyo nini? Maneno yaone sasa nini utasikia wakisema. Kisema hello. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Am I audible?
Admitting your colleagues. So kindly, Kevin, mute your mic. Kindly mute your mic. If you don't mute, I'll be forced to remove you. Kindly mute your mic. Okay. I don't know if you're able to hear me because I can't hear anyone speaking or comment. So is Cosmos in the class rep? Okay, Wapuha. Miss, we are getting you, Madam. Thank you, Pauline. My name is Dr. Precious Joan Wapuha. I'll be taking you through states and society, state, society, and development. I'm a historian. I have a bachelor's of education in history, master's of arts in history, and also PhD in history. So you want to contribute to my class. Expect us to have an interactive class. Today I'll be introducing this unit, but I promise that next week I'll come there physically at the university so that we can interact more concerning the course states and society. And I'm very sorry I came in late to teach because of some other technical issues that really affected me. But thank you for your understanding. Thank you for waiting for me. I'm here for you. We shall learn more. We shall interact more, and you'll gain knowledge by the end of this unit. Otherwise, comrades, thank you. I appreciate you for your patience and understanding. So I want us to now focus on this unit, states, society, and development. States, society, and development. The purpose of this course is to introduce students into the societal aspects. And the societal aspects include social, political, and economic development, more specifically of Africa. So the purpose of this unit is to introduce the student, to the structures of Africa, structures in relation to structures in relation to social, structures of African development in relation to political, structures of African development in relation to economic. So the purpose of this course is to introduce you to the social, political, and economic development of Africa. So very fast, I'll go to the course content. So, in the course content, maybe I'll just mention the areas we shall focus on. The first title that we shall focus on is Pre-colonial nation in Africa. The pre-colonial nation in Africa. Semicolon, foundations, characteristics, and role in development. The first title that we shall focus on will be Pre-colonial nation in Africa. Put a semicolon, foundations, comma, characteristics, and role in development. Topic number 2 will be on the nation state in Africa. The nation state in Africa. The nation state in Africa. Put a semicolon. Under nation state in Africa, we shall focus on origin, characteristics, and development in Africa. The third topic that we shall focus on is the nation state. The nation state hyphen state in other parts of the world. State in other parts of the world. More specifically, Britain. More specifically, Britain, USA, Europe. More specifically, Britain, USA, and Europe. Topic number 4. We shall focus on comparison between a nation, and state. Number 4, we shall focus on comparison between a nation, and state. Number 5, we shall focus on development, underdevelopment in Africa during the colonial era. In Africa during the colonial era. Topic 6, we shall focus on kindly, it's either you mute or I will just remove you from the class. Kindly be fair to your colleagues. Comparison, that is number 4, comparison. I think, no, I was on number 6, sorry. I've mentioned topic number 4. I've mentioned topic number 5. So we are on topic number 6, sorry. No, under number 6 now, we shall focus on what went wrong in Africa after independence. What went wrong in Africa after independence? That is, in bracket, you can say a post-colonialism or post-colonialism is the right word. Post-colonialism. What went wrong in Africa after independence? In brackets, put it as post-colonialism. After colonialism, now we had independence. During independence, what happened? What were the challenges affecting Africans? What were the challenges affecting the state of Africans? The 7th title that we shall look at is the failed states. The failed states in Africa. The failed states in Africa. When we talk of failed states, These are states that are suffering from political instability. And in this case of topic number 7, failed states in Africa, we have several states that are politically unstable, but we shall focus on one case study, and that case study of a failed state will be Somalia. Number 8, the influence of globalization on development. The influence of globalization on development and external trade. The influence of globalization and development and external trade as a factor in development. As a factor in development. The influence of globalization on development and external trade as a factor in development. Influence of globalization on development and external trade as a factor in development. The world now is a village because of globalization. And how does it contribute to trade? How does it contribute to trade which leads to development of African continent? So we shall discuss more about it. Then we have number 9, which is Millennium Development Goals. Number 9, Millennium Development Goals and Vision 2030. Millennium Development Goals and Vision 2030. All these goals, more specifically the MDG, the Millennium Development Goal, is for the development of Africa. These goals are established for the development and also the development of Africa in terms of economic aspect, social aspect, and also the political aspect. And lastly, we shall focus on now the emerging issue in Kenya, which deals with devolved government. So the title will be Devolved Government in Kenya. Devolved Government in Kenya. Good. So,
School of Science. Na still senior bima manyana.
So I want us to begin by the first title. Let us look at the first title. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to open my laptop. I want us to look at the pre-nation in African society. Pre-colonial nation in African society. Just a minute, kindly. So, I want us to begin by defining a nation. By defining a nation, they have a shared or have a common values. That's why we can be termed as the nation of Kenya. And now one thing, the main difference between a country and a nation is that a nation is more than just boundaries. It's not just about boundaries. Kenya, we have a boundary border that borders Uganda, Ethiopia. No, it's about sharing cultural aspects, sharing ancestors, sharing common origin. Now, that is a nation. But a country, to some extent, people normally use a country, nation, state synonymously. But there is a difference, a thin difference among those definitions. Because the country is just about the boundaries and political institutions. But nation, it's deep rooted into people's culture, common ancestors, common values, and etc. Now, for example, before the establishment of boundaries, before the coming of Europeans, there were no boundaries. Before the coming of Europeans, there were no boundaries. We were living in communities, in nations, the Luo nation. These people were of common origin, common language, common ancestors. And you realize that there were various communities living on their own without boundaries. And these communities had their own social, political, and economic organizations. And that's why in the pre-colonial period, before the establishment of boundaries, those communities were known as nations. I hope we are together. So these were the traditions, not anything else, not based on states' rules. No, they were based on their communities' traditions. And that's why those communities, the way they were living, they were termed as nations because they share same culture, they share the same ancestors and the same values. However, it's worth noting that the boundaries that were there were traditionally structured. They were not structured by colonial powers. They were just traditionally structured, drawn. They were form of trees. Those boundaries were form of trees, form of rivers. There was no drawing anywhere. And in the colonial period, in the pre-colonial period, those nations, those communities had their own laws, and their laws were known as the taboos. And that's why we realize in our community, each and every person in this class comes from a certain community. You have your own taboos. Those taboos during those days in the pre-colonial period, those are the taboos that formed the laws. It's what we term laws in this contemporary period. They also had armies. Right now we term them as armies. But in the pre-colonial period, these armies were known as warriors. Again, among these nations in the pre-colonial period, they worshipped in shrines. For example, the Gikuyu, they worshipped under Mugumo tree. In terms of communication, these nations of communities were communicating through traditional ways. They were communicating through drums. They were communicating through trumpets. They were communicating through smoke. So, as you can see, these communities had all the traits of the contemporary communities. The pre-colonial nations had all the characteristics of the contemporary nations. When we talk of the laws were there. When we talk of traditional boundaries, the traditional boundaries were there, such as rivers, smoke, and etc. When you talk of taxes, they used to pay taxes through their chiefs. When you talk of trading, they practiced barter trade system. Now the only difference is that right now it's more of, we focus more on currency, monetary system of trade. But in the pre-colonial period, they used to exchange goods for goods. In terms of cabinet members, in the contemporary period, we now have cabinet members, ministers in the contemporary period. But now, in comparison to the pre-colonial period, we used to have council of elders who served as CS. Council of elders, they were like the cabinet ministers, cabinet members. So there is a lot of similarity between the nations in the past and the present nation. And very quickly, I want us to now look at the structures, the foundations of pre-colonial nations. So the foundations of pre-colonial African nations were founded into several structures. The first structure of pre-colonial African nation is the social structure. The first one is the social structure. The second one is the political systems. The third one is the economic systems. Kindly note down. The fourth one is the cultural religious foundation. I think now the fourth one is the last one, cultural and religious foundations. So let's begin by focusing on social structures. When we talk of social structures, it is just about the way of life, people's ways of life. One, most of African societies were organized around extended families. What do we mean by extended families? In an African setup, in a societal setup, we normally have the family as the smaller unit. From the family, we have the clan, family, and clan. So when we talk about family and clan, under family we have the nuclear family and the extended family. Then a collection of families forms a clan, and you will realize several families belong to a certain clan. And I believe most of you in this class, you belong to a certain clan, and you'll realize maybe your family belongs to that clan, maybe your cousin's family belongs to that clan, your friend's family belongs to the same clan. So clan, it's formed as a result of collection of families. Under social structure, again, we have very important individuals in the social structure of pre-colonial African nation. We have elders as an important elders and councils as an important section of as an important section of pre-colonial African society, whereby these elders and councils have specific roles, and their roles range from decision making in the society, spiritual leaders in the society. They also solve disagreements in the society. That is the social structure. And apart from that, it's worth noting that we also have in our African society, in the pre-colonial, we used to have very specific individuals who are skilled in terms of prophecy. Others were ritualists, and for example, among the Kalenjin, where we had the one who was providing solutions for seeing the future, and this guy was known as Kimnyole. And also among other communities like the Samburu, they have ritualists, and a ritualist comes from a community, a clan known as Laisi. So basically, this ritualism and also the issue of prophecy, it belongs to the spiritual aspects of the society, and this spiritual aspect falls under the social structures of the pre-colonial African society. And not only that, but also in terms of spirituality, the pre-colonial African society used to pray under, they used to have shrines where they could pray. For example, the Agikuyu, they used to pray under Mugumo tree. Now we refer that Mugumo tree as a shrine, and so many other communities. While the Samburu also, they believe that there is a rope connecting them to Nkai in heaven. So when they pray, they normally face a Nyiro side hills so that they can pray to their God. Structure number 2 is political system. Under political system, this is very straightforward. Now, in the pre-colonial period, for example, among the Abawanga, we used to have the centralized system of governance. When we talk about centralized system of governance, it means we have someone who is central. Meaning central, he is in charge. He is the main person. All the powers are vested unto that central person. And that's why it is termed as a centralized system of governance, where there was a king. The king was the central person. All the powers were vested unto the king. He was the commander-in-chief. And these kingdoms were evident in Kenya. For example, the Wanga kingdom in Western region. Apart from Kenya, also in Uganda, there was Buganda kingdom. In other parts of Africa, there was Mali Empire, Ghana Empire, Zululand, and the Kingdom of Agrium. That is for the centralized system of government. What about decentralized system of government? In the pre-colonial system, there was a two kind of system: centralized, the one I've mentioned of the kings, and the second one is decentralized. When we talk about the word decentralized, when you do something, it means you are separating, you are giving powers to other individuals. So decentralization meant that powers were vested to other structures of the government of the pre-colonial society. This entails the Council of Elders. This entails the clan. Therefore, in Africa, more specifically, a case study of government. For example, Elizabeth, kindly mute your mic. Elizabeth, mute your mic. Thank you. Now, in decentralized system, in Kenya, case study of Kenya, there was and I think it is still there. There was a council of elders known as the Njurincheke among the Meru. This Njurincheke was very powerful, and their powers were also shared by the clans. So, meaning it is decentralized. Powers are shared in two aspects. That is the Njurincheke, who are the council of elders, and also the clan leaders. There was no king. So power was not vested upon one person as a king. No, power was vested among these structures of political system of the Meru. That is the Council of Elders, a good Council of Elders known as Njurincheke, and also clans, clan members. Similarly, also with the Agikuyu, there was a Council of Elders known as Kiama, Kiatamaki. They were well endowed with knowledge and knowledge concerning solving issues in the society, organizing for attacks against their enemies, and etc. So basically, when we talk of political systems in pre-colonial society, talk of two: the centralized government ruled by the king, powers vested by the king, while decentralized government where power is shared among various structures. And a good example is where we have the Njurincheke of the Meru and the Agikuyu, where we have the Council of Elders and the clan. Another important aspect of a political system or a political structure in the pre-colonial period is the militaristic aspect. Whenever we talk about a political system, we can never fail to talk about the militaristic aspect. This is because military and political structures are interwoven. It is impossible to divorce military from political structures because military is what gives protection to the political structures. Therefore, in the pre-colonial nation, there were armies, and these armies were known as the warriors. The warriors were in charge of protecting the society. For example, among the Turkana, they had their own warriors, and Samburu also, they had their own warriors who were like who were joined warriorship after undergoing a certain procedure of EHIS system. From there, they were admitted to now the section of warriorship. They are in their community, they are termed as Morans. And Morans, or the warriors, were in charge of protecting the society against the attacks of the enemies. They were in charge of relaying information concerning any kind of threats in the society. And also, they were in charge of protecting the resources of their society. Next is the economic system. Under economic system, basically, from the word economic system, this can tell you it's about the people's livelihood. It's about people's livelihood. And the issue of livelihood is not an emerging issue in the contemporary period. It has existed since the pre-colonial period. Societies were surviving economically through certain activities. Activities such as trading, agriculture, fishing, and etc. So, in the pre-colonial societies, communities practice various kind of economic activities. For example, the Sana, the Maasai, the Samburu, they practiced livestock keeping, while the Bantus practiced agriculture, while the River Lake Nilotes practiced also fishing. And one thing you need to know, by then there was no currency, there was no money. So they depended on these goods for exchange. For example, I might have maybe a sack of maize and you have a sack of beans. We exchange. That was the trade. We exchange. I give you a sack of maybe maize, then you give me a sack of beans, and that was termed as a barter trade system. And more notably, I want you to understand that whoever maybe I should just remove you. Okay, thank you. Now let's go on. One thing I want you to note is that even in the pre-colonial period, long time ago, in the around even during that pre-colonial period, to be very specific, in the early 1500, 1400, communities were practicing trans-Saharan slave trade. That is across Sahara Desert. And their mode of exchange, they were exchanging goods for goods. They were exchanging goods for goods. For example, they could exchange slave for gold, ivory for slaves, and therefore it formed a vicious circle of trade and trade goods. So that is an important aspect of economic system that was only there in the pre-colonial period. I doubt if these days people still practice barter trade system. At the moment, we have the money, currencies, and that is now the legitimate trade that we have. Number 4 is the cultural and religious foundations. Sorry for that. Now, the next important aspect, I have just thought of a very weird idea of a barter trade system where we can exchange eggs for maybe someone grinding for me flour. So I don't know how that is applicable. Maybe some of you have experienced that, but barter trade system is one of the most exciting and interesting aspect of the pre-colonial society. Number 4 is cultural and religious foundations. Cultural and religious foundations. Now, I think we can talk of cultural and religious foundation in the pre-colonial society because they were there before the coming of colonialists. Religions came in the pre-colonial period. And when religions came in the pre-colonial period, they converted people. They converted these Africans in the pre-colonial. In 1800, by 1800, by 1500, that was pre-colonial. And we were already experiencing external religions, such as Islamic religion, such as Christianity. And apart from the two main religions that we know, we also had our own religion. We cannot avoid to say that. We had our own indigenous religion, the African traditional religion. So in terms of culture and religious foundations, there were 3 important things that I want you to know. In the pre-colonial period, as much as we were very independent, later on we experienced the introduction of certain religions such as Islamic, Christianity, and more specifically, some kingdoms really embraced Christianity in in Africa. A good example of a kingdom that embraced Christianity is the Axiom kingdom that is in Ethiopia. And another important kingdom that embraced Islamic religion, is the Mali Empire. The kingdom of Ghana. They really embraced Islamic religion. And they embraced it through certain factors, such as trade and conquest. And the third one is traditional religion, whereby Africans practiced their own indigenous religion, whereby they believed in their ancestors. They believed in their gods, gods with a small g. And it is now, up to there, I think now you are well enlightened concerning the foundations of pre-colonial African nations. That is now the social structures, political systems, economic systems, cultural and religious foundations. Good. So maybe very quickly, I want us to look at the last part. Today was just an introductory part. I want us to very quickly look at the characteristics of the pre-colonial African nation. But I think it is just the same. The foundation. Now the only difference is that whoever has unmuted, kindly mute. So the only difference is that now these traits